The atmosphere in the Johnston home felt typical, with a routine cadence of chatter, chores, and laughter that bound their days together. Beneath that well-known hum, however, a secret was subtly emerging. It was a fact that Anna Johnston held dear, one that seemed to pulse with each breath she took. Like a spark in dry grass, the rumor started out as a whisper and spread from one area to another until it reached the family. Anna was expecting a child. The words were veiled in mystery and hung heavy, impossible to ignore. Only Anna herself understood the specifics and the identity of the man behind the narrative. She walked into the home in a soft glow, her smile revealing the happiness she was trying to conceal. For now, the secret remained hers only, a delicate gem she wasn't prepared to divulge. Even though the family recognized something was off, they were still unable to fully comprehend the scope of what was happening. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got some major tea spilling from the world of reality TV, specifically the TLC hit show 7 Little Johnstons. And trust me, this one is going to leave you speechless. So grab your popcorn, because Anna Johnston just dropped a bombshell that has the entire Johnston family in shock. Anna was standing on the brink of change at that very time. The whispered secret was more than just a rumor. It marked the start of a new chapter in her life that would soon need to be disclosed. It was no longer possible to control the moment. What had been whispered behind closed doors now pressed too hard to hide from Anna Johnston's heart. Anna took a deep breath one evening as the family gathered in the living room, the air heavy with curiosity. Her smile was full of truth, and her eyes gleamed with a silent resolve. She spoke gently, but her words had the force of thunder. "I'm pregnant." There was silence in the room. No one spoke or moved for a heartbeat. As though time had stopped to take in the gravity of her confession, the familiar warmth of the Johnston home appeared to freeze. Jonah leaned forward in shock. Elizabeth's eyes widened, and Amber and Trent shared a glance that was a mix of surprise and unasked questions. Anna's hands were comfortably folded in her lap as she sat up straighter. Her voice was devoid of any hesitation or doubt. She felt certain, even bright, as if the truth had freed her from a burden. The family's resolute and oppressive quiet persisted until it was evident that the secret was no longer a whisper. It had altered everything and was unquestionably real. The Johnston household was shocked to learn of Anna's pregnancy, but questions soon broke the ice. Voices began to emerge one by one, creating a chorus of interest and worry. Who was this secret's creator? Who was the focal point of Anna's future after winning her heart? Amber leaned forward, her voice keen yet shaking with anxiety. Trent looked steadily into his daughter's eyes, looking for answers. Jonah and Elizabeth looked at each other, their faces vacillating between suspicion and incredulity. Anna provided no clarification, despite the family's need for it. With her hands folded and her smile steady, she sat silently. She refused to mention his name and gave a soft shake of her head when pressed. No suggestion, no acknowledgement, no information escaped her lips. The mystery persisted, jealously guarded, as if disclosing it would destroy the brittle happiness she carried. With every question left unanswered, the room became heavier. The family's annoyance grew, but Anna remained steadfast in her quiet. She refused to give up the secret that her partner, who was also the father of her child, was still hiding in the shadows. Thus, the mystery guy lingered in the room like a ghost, unseen but unquestionably present, and his absence fueled the family's curiosity and rage. Voices layered with intensity flooded the living room, which had previously been filled with astonished quiet. Amber posed the question that was on everyone's mind, leaning forward and narrowing her eyes. "Who is he, Anna?" With the firmness and steadiness of a father's care, Trent's voice came next. Jonah spoke incredulously, almost impatiently, and Elizabeth moved uneasily, her interest leaking into incisive words. With their voices rising like waves slamming against Anna's serene shore, each sibling voiced their own demand. With an unwavering stance and steady gaze, Anna sat in the middle of it all. She did not respond, but she did listen. The inquiries intensified, swirling around her like a tempest, but she said nothing, silently defending the truth. The family's feelings were mixed between worry and rage, and their questions became more pressing. They desired understanding and clarity, but Anna's denial just made things more complicated. Every unanswered question left a harsher edge, and the tension in the air grew. The Johnston family was split at that point, with one side demanding answers and the other clinging to a secret. Anna stood by herself in the center of it all, her quiet speaking more than any words she could have said. The inquiries were relentless and pointed like arrows, but Anna reacted to them with a wall of silence. She was surrounded by her family's voices, each one more demanding than the one before, yet she did not recoil. Her lips were squeezed together in silent defiance as she sat motionless, her face composed. Amber's remarks were tinged with hurt as her frustration poured into the room. Elizabeth and Jonah added their own urgent pleadings as Trent's tone became more authoritative. However, Anna's response was consistently the same, a silent rejection. Her silent but unmistakable message was conveyed by the quiet strength in her eyes. This was her border, her choice, and she would not be disturbed. She grew more determined as the family put more pressure on her, turning her silence into a defense. The atmosphere was filled with discomfort as the tension increased. What ought to have been a moment of solidarity broke down into conflict. But Anna didn't waver. Her disobedience was more audible than anything she said. She proclaimed her freedom in that quiet. She made her own way in that disobedience. Once a haven of routine and warmth, the Johnston home was suddenly teeming with anxiety. Unresolved questions and unresolved feelings weighed heavily on the air. Curiosity had given way to irritation, and frustration was rapidly building into rage. Amber pressed Anna again, her voice rising above the others with a shiver of hurt. Elizabeth and Jonah added their own scathing demands, and Trent's tone became more strong, and his statements had an air of authority. The questions piled on top of one another, creating a tempest that shook the living room's walls. With her unyielding defiance and unbroken silence, Anna sat in the middle of it all. However, the family's patience grew strained the more she refused. In a chorus of incredulity and disappointment, their voices clashed and overlapped. What was supposed to be a celebration of fresh life was turning into conflict. There was no room for calm as the tension surged through the home like a tide. Every word held weight. Every look carried accusation. Despite the chaos around her, Anna managed to maintain her position with her quiet strength. The family was no longer together at that point. Silence, concealment, and the gathering storm that threatened to swallow them all kept them apart. Anna's pulse beat differently amid the cacophony of voices and the weight of unresolved issues. As annoyance whirled about her, she experienced a silent delight that no rage could quench. Her hands were softly resting on her lap, and the truth of her feelings could be seen in her gentle yet firm grin. She was content, very, very happy. She felt a feeling of purpose and lightness at the prospect of becoming a mother, which helped her to withstand the condemnation of her relatives. When she thought about the life developing inside of her and the future she was getting ready to embrace, every word of criticism seemed to evaporate. Her brightness was impervious to the harsh questioning from her parents and the cutting tones of her brothers. Because it was based on the knowledge of what was ahead, Anna's happiness was durable rather than brittle. She was aware that the road ahead would be challenging and that the family's resentment might persist. but her happiness outweighed their uncertainties. Anna's silence at that point was more than just disobedience. It was a statement that no storm could extinguish the light she held within, that her happiness was important, and that her decision was hers alone. Once a place of open dialogue and shared laughter, the Johnston home seemed split by imperceptible boundaries. The family had always taken satisfaction in being truthful and candid about their life, regardless of how challenging the topic may have been. Their path did not involve secrets. However, Anna's quiet was a stark contrast to their entire worldview. With the weight of history in her voice, Amber reminded Anna that transparency was the glue that held them together and that family required trust. The same forceful and unwavering statements were repeated by Trent, who insisted that concealing the truth would only cause distance. Despite being younger, Elizabeth and Jonah shared this frustration, their inquiries honed by the morals they had been taught. The rhythm of Anna's heart, however, was unusual. She felt that she had the right to privacy and that not all information had to be disclosed. She owed no one any information about her boyfriend's identity. Her happiness was her own. She saw quiet as protection rather than treachery. There was no denying the conflict. A family that demands answers and is obligated to be transparent is on one side. Anna, on the other hand, was adamant about keeping her secret and remained independent. Every word and look carried the weight of two cultures colliding, turning the living room into a battleground of ideals. Even as the family's rage intensified, Anna stood her position in the middle of it all, her silence a declaration that she would not back down. The Johnston family had now reached the limit of their patience due to the silence that Anna bore like armor. What had started out as inquiries had solidified into annoyance, which had now erupted into rage. Amber was the first to speak, her remarks hurtful and cutting. She found it incomprehensible that Anna would conceal something so significant from the people who had always supported her. Trent's tone, which was steady but heavy, conveyed a sense of disappointment that was more profound than any yell. While Jonah's annoyance turned to sarcasm and his incredulity became contempt, Elizabeth's eyes sparkled with disbelief and her comments were sharp and swift. A whirlwind of accusations and suffering filled the room as each voice collided with the others, causing the room to vibrate with emotion. Anna's hesitation to tell the truth made the family feel excluded and deceived. Her silence was perceived by them as rejection rather than power. Anna sat in the middle of their rage, her heart racing but her face composed. She didn't bend or respond, but the rage surrounding her intensified, bearing down on her like a wave intended to shatter her determination. Once united, the Johnston household now shuddered under the strain of disunity. The family's unadulterated rage left Anna standing by herself, her secret the igniter of the fire. Anna remained unflinching despite the maelstrom of rage swirling around her. She appeared impenetrable in that instant as she sat erect, her shoulders set, her stare unwavering. She remained steadfast, anchored in her own will, despite the family's words pressing against her like waves against stone. Her silence was now a declaration rather than merely a rejection. She was neither a secret to be revealed nor a youngster to be reprimanded. She was a woman on the verge of becoming a mother who was adamant about defending her decisions. Trent's tone conveyed authority. Amber's words conveyed hurt. But Anna's composed demeanor conveyed something more powerful: independence. She refused to comply with their requests or give up the privacy she felt was rightfully hers. She would follow her own path without regret, and every unresolved question served as a reminder that her life was her own, that Anna's quiet strength shone brighter despite the family's rage. Their expectations no longer defined her. She was defined by her own will, her own delight, and the future she was ready to embrace. Anna asserted her independence and that defiance, saying that she would stand proudly by herself if necessary. One demand had emerged from the questions around Anna's pregnancy. Who is he? Anna kept her mouth shut despite the mistrust, curiosity, and rage in the family's tones. She provided not a single name, description, or hint. Every interaction was shaped by the mystery surrounding her boyfriend, which never emerged into the spotlight. Every utterance and every look conveyed felt his absence. The family imagined him, argued him, theorized about his role, but he remained unseen, a figure veiled beneath Anna's quiet. Trent was more disappointed. Amber was more frustrated, and her siblings were speculating among themselves. But Anna's determination remained unwavering. She kept his identity a secret that she felt had to be hers alone, like a treasure too precious to reveal. The secret lover evolved into more than simply a person. He began to represent the gap that exists between Anna and her family. He was the unsolved question that stoked their rage and deepened their mistrust. His name unsaid, his presence invisible. Anna continued to stand her stance. The family struggled with shadows rather than reality as the mystery and her silence persisted. The word of Anna's pregnancy started to spread outside the Johnston residence. What had begun as a family secret was now revealed to viewers who had been following the Johnstons for years. Fans of the show, loyal and intrigued, filled online places with their voices. Some applauded Anna's statement, commending her bravery and upholding her right to conceal the identity of her lover. They saw her independence as admirable and her happiness as sufficient. They thought she deserved unconditional support after witnessing her delight and radiance. But some weren't that understanding. Echoing the family's displeasure, they demanded explanations. Who was the father? Why the secrecy? They believed that Anna had betrayed them by keeping the facts from people who had taken an interest in her narrative. Conflicting responses created a social media tempest of viewpoints. Criticism and support collided, each side fervently defending its position. In addition to dividing her family, Anna's secret also split her audience. Despite the cacophony of admirers discussing, guessing, and disagreeing, Anna maintained her composure. She didn't answer or provide an explanation. Everyone, including family and fans, was left to struggle with the enigma she refused to reveal as her quiet extended beyond the home and into the outside world. With tension in the air that would not go away, the Johnston household had become restless. Days of unresolved issues and growing resentment had severely damaged the family's cohesion. What had previously bound them together now appeared brittle and in danger of shattering. The pivotal moment came during this precarious quiet. The family started to understand that Anna's secret was about trust and the basis of their relationship, not just about a secret boyfriend. Amber's voice was softer and laced with disappointment, and her eyes now held more grief than rage. Once forceful, Trent's remarks became softer as he realized his daughter was slipping out of his grasp. Jonah and Elizabeth also started to notice the gap. Although they were still frustrated, they were also afraid that Anna's silence might permanently change the family dynamic. Now, the questions they had so vehemently posed echoed back at them, unanswered, leaving nothing but space in their wake. Anna, however solid in her resolve, felt the shift. She sensed that their voices had changed from one of anger to something more serious, a realization that her decision to be independent was changing the dynamics of the family in ways that none of them could control. The pivotal moment wasn't dramatic or noisy. It was unmistakable, weighty, and silent. The future of the Johnston family was unknown. Their closeness was strained, and their trust was put to the test. The Johnston residence had turned into a site of contrasts, where two feelings coexisted but never came into contact. On one side was Anna, her heart beaming with expectation, her smile carrying the gentle beauty of a woman heading into motherhood. The rain around her did not dampen her excitement as she walked through the house with a lightness. Her family, burdened by the pain of unresolved questions, stood on the other side. Even though they were speaking less now, the hush was thick with hurt and disappointment. Trent's worried stare remained on Anna. Amber's sorrowful gaze lingered on her, and her siblings watched uneasily, divided between love and frustration. Unquestionably, Anna was happy, and her joy would not go out. She dreamed about the love that already filled her heart, the future she would create, and the child she would carry. However, the family suffering, which stemmed from the concealment that had excluded them, was equally genuine. They wanted to be a part of her happiness, but the wall of silence separated them. The house seemed to breathe with both emotions, joy and agony, hope and hurt, each one pressing against the other, unable to find harmony. While the family remained silent, like a shadow, Anna's laughter reverberated quietly. It was a delicate balance, a family split between joy and grief, neither side eager to let go of what they had inside, but both waiting for the other to yield. The whirlwind of inquiries and rage had left its mark, and the Johnston household stood in uncomfortable silence. Once unbreakable, the family's tie felt brittle now, strained by silence and secrets. Beneath the stress, though, was a quiet reality. Whether they were prepared or not, life was about to change. Anna carried her delight like a lantern, burning even in the depths of doubt. She gazed confidently ahead, her eyes focused on the kid she would soon hold. Her boyfriend's identity was still a secret, but she was adamant about preserving her happiness. Despite their wounds, her family was unable to deny the truth. With the arrival of a new life came the possibility of either reconciliation or more separation. Amber's sorrow, Trent's fear, Elizabeth's incredulity, and Jonah's frustration all hung in the air, waiting for resolution. The route was obscure, and the future was uncertain. Would trust emerge from Anna's silence? Would the family's resentment give way to acceptance? Or would the divide grow larger, altering the Johnston household forever? As of right now, the answers were still a mystery, locked away in the days to come. But one reality was undeniable. Anna's secret had put the family on a new adventure, one that would test their love, their principles, and their strength. The question of what would happen next hung like a shadow, waiting to be disclosed, while Anna grinned softly to herself. Let us know in the comments. And stay tuned by subscribe to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you, bye guys.